The Last Stand. The command center of the Meridian Alliance's last stronghold was eerily silent. Commander Tarek Vowell stood before the tactical display, his four eyes fixed on the blinking indicators representing what remained of their once mighty defense fleet. The curved, translucent screen showed a swarm of red markers, thousands of enemy vessels, advancing inexorably toward Meridia Prime, their last refuge. Tarek's scaled skin had lost its usual vibrant blue sheen, now faded to a dull gray from weeks without proper rest. His ceremonial captain's crest, once proudly displayed along his spine, lay flat against his back, a physiological sign of defeat that he couldn't hide from his crew, no matter how stoic his words remained. "Status report on the planetary shield," Tarek demanded, his jewel-toned voice carrying across the circular chamber. First Officer Loran approached, her delicate insectoid form moving with practiced grace despite the gravity of their situation. "Shields at 23% capacity, Commander. The latest barrage damaged 3 more generators. Engineering estimates complete failure within 7 hours." Tarek nodded solemnly. 7 hours. 7 hours until the swarm would descend upon Meridia Prime and its 5 billion inhabitants, the last consolidated population of the 7 species that formed the Meridian Alliance. "Civilian evacuation progress?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would offer little comfort. 17% of designated evacuation ships have departed, Loran replied, her compound eyes dimming slightly. "At current rates, we can evacuate approximately 30 million before shield failure. 5 billion souls, and they could save barely a fraction." Tarek felt the weight of command as never before. "The Council of Elders is requesting your presence, Commander," Security Chief Dorn announced from his station. The burly Krevlak's stone-like skin had developed new cracks from stress. A sign of aging that typically took decades to appear had manifested in weeks. "Tell them I'll report after this attack wave," Tarek replied. The tactical officer, a young Sifarian named Melis whose luminescent tendrils flickered with anxiety, suddenly straightened at her console. "Commander, the swarm is altering formation. It's unlike anything we've seen before." On the display, the cloud of enemy ships was indeed changing pattern, forming into what appeared to be a massive pointed spear aimed directly at the planet's northern hemisphere. "They're concentrating forces," Tarek observed. "Target." "The primary shield generator complex," Melis confirmed, her voice faltering. "Not 7 hours, then. Perhaps not even 1. Tarek made a decision. "Divert all remaining destroyer-class vessels to defensive position Alpha. Move evacuating civilian ships to the southern hemisphere launch sites." He turned to his communications officer. "Vex, open a secure channel to the council chambers." The slender Thalian nodded, his tentacular fingers dancing across his console. The curved wall before Tarek shimmered, revealing the 7 members of the Elder Council, the last leaders of their respective species. Their faces showed varying stages of despair. "Honored elders," Tarek began, bowing slightly. "The swarm has altered tactics. We believe they intend to target our primary shield generators directly. Our defensive capabilities will not withstand such a concentrated assault." Elder Shiro, the Thalian representative and current council head, leaned forward. "Then we truly face extinction." "There is one option we have not yet pursued," said Elder Korra, the ancient Krevlak whose stone skin had cracked so deeply it revealed the glowing core beneath, a sign she was in her final cycle of life. The other elders shifted uncomfortably. They knew what she was suggesting. "The humans have isolated themselves for nearly 40 years, objected Elder Prell, the Sci-Farian representative. "They made it abundantly clear they want nothing to do with galactic politics." "This isn't politics," Korra countered, her voice grinding like boulders. "This is survival." Tarek had heard the stories of humanity since childhood. Earth had joined the galactic community late, emerging onto the scene with surprising technological aptitude despite their relative youth as a spacefaring species. For 2 decades, they had integrated cautiously into galactic society. establishing outposts, trading technologies, and forming limited military alliances, including one with the Meridian Alliance. Then came the Regilian incident. The details were classified to all but the highest levels of government, but the aftermath was clear. Humanity had withdrawn completely from galactic affairs. They recalled their diplomats, closed their outposts, and retreated to their solar system. The few who attempted to make contact found Earth surrounded by defense systems of terrifying power and complexity. For 40 years, humanity had remained silent, developing who knew what behind their shield of isolation. Commander Tarek, Elder Shiro addressed him directly. Your assessment of the situation. Tarek met the Elder's gaze. If the swarm breaches our shields, Meridia Prime falls. With it, the last organized resistance to their advance. We have exhausted all conventional options. And what of the unconventional option? Cora pressed. The defense treaty with Earth was never formally dissolved, Tarek admitted. Our predecessors maintained the emergency protocols, even after contact ceased. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled. Can we even be certain they would receive such a message? Asked Elder Prell. No, Tarek answered honestly. But from what our intelligence suggests, they continue to monitor the emergency frequencies. A violent tremor shook the command center. Warning lights flashed across every console. Northern quadrant under heavy bombardment. Malus called out. Shield integrity at 19% and falling rapidly. Tarek turned back to the council. We must decide now, honored elders. Elder Shiro closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. Initiate the protocol, Commander. May the stars favor us. The transmission ended, and Tarek moved swiftly to the communications array. Vex, prepare the Earth emergency protocol. The officers around him exchanged glances of surprise and doubt, but none objected as Vex's fingers worked feverishly across his console. Protocol ready, Commander, Vex announced moments later. Transmission package compiled according to the treaty specifications, broadcasting on all designated emergency frequencies. Tarek placed his hand on the authorization scanner. This is Commander Tarek Val of the Meridian Alliance. By authority of the Elder Council, and under the terms of the Earth-Meridian Mutual Defense Treaty, we formally request immediate military assistance. Meridia Prime is under attack by the swarm. Our defenses will fail within hours. Billions of civilian lives are at stake. We await your response. The message shot out into the void, encoded in formats specified 4 decades earlier. Now we wait, Tarek said, turning back to the tactical display. Commander, Lyran said softly, what makes you believe they will come? After so long. Tarek studied the advancing enemy formation. Because I've read the uncensored reports of the Regilian incident, and if even half of what I read is true, the humans possess capabilities far beyond anything the swarm has encountered. And if they don't respond? Dorn asked. Then we die with dignity, saving as many as we can, Tarek replied. The next hour passed in tense focus as the command crew coordinated the increasingly desperate defense. The shield strength dropped steadily, 15%, 12, 9. Commander, Vex suddenly called out, his tentacles rippling with excitement. I'm receiving a response on the emergency channel. The command center fell silent. On screen, Tarek ordered, his voice steady despite the hope threatening to overwhelm him. The display flickered, and a human face appeared. Female, by their dimorphic standards, with dark skin and silver hair cut close to her scalp. She wore a uniform of midnight blue with minimal insignia. Her expression was calm, evaluative, almost predatory. Commander Val, this is Admiral Helena Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We have received your distress call and acknowledge the invocation of our treaty obligations. Tarek stepped forward. Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Meridian Alliance, I thank you for responding. Our situation is... We are aware of your situation, Commander, Chen interrupted, her tone matter-of-fact. We have been monitoring the swarm's advance since they first appeared in the Cygnus Arm 3 years ago. This revelation sent murmurs through the command center. The humans had known all along. Relief forces have already been dispatched, Chen continued. Expect arrival within 17 minutes. 17 minutes. Impossible. Even with the most advanced FTL drives known to the Alliance, the nearest potential human forces would be hours away at minimum. Admiral, Tarek said carefully, perhaps there is a translation error. Did you say 17 minutes? A ghost of a smile touched Chen's lips. 17 minutes, Commander. I suggest you move your defensive vessels to these coordinates. Data streamed across a secondary screen. And prepare your people for what they're about to witness. The transmission ended abruptly. Could they really arrive so quickly? Liran asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Plot those coordinates, Tarek ordered instead of speculating. Malus complied, analyzing the data. These positions would create a gap in our defensive line, Commander. It would give the swarm direct access to Sector 7, which contains what? Tarek prompted. Nothing critical, Malus confirmed after checking. Minimal civilian presence, no key infrastructure. Implement the Admiral's suggestion, Tarek decided. Transmit orders to all vessels. The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. The shields dropped to 7%. The swarm continued its relentless advance, seemingly unaware of the gap being created in the defensive line. 16 minutes since the human transmission, Vex announced. No signs of approaching vessels, Malus added, studying her sensors. Tarek maintained his composure, though doubt began to gnaw at him. Had they misunderstood? Was this some cruel joke from a species that had abandoned galactic society decades ago? 17 minutes, Vex called out. Nothing. 18 minutes. 19. Commander, Dorn said, his gravelly voice low. Perhaps we should reconsider our energy spike. Malus shouted, her tendrils flaring brightly. Massive distortion forming in Sector 7. The tactical display showed a swirling anomaly appearing precisely at the coordinates Admiral Chen had specified, directly behind the swarm formation. What is that? Liran whispered. The anomaly expanded rapidly, a swirling vortex of crimson and gold unlike any FTL emergence pattern Tarek had ever seen. From within this impossible tear in space-time, ships began to emerge. Not one or two, but dozens, then hundreds. The vessels were unlike anything in known space. Angular, asymmetrical designs of matte black material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. They moved with impossible precision, arraying themselves in a formation that effectively trapped the swarm between their forces and Meridia's defensive line. Count. Tarek demanded, his voice barely audible. Over 700 vessels, Malus reported, her voice trembling. Various classes, many larger than anything in our database. Energy readings are, Commander, these readings can't be correct. The largest human vessel, a behemoth that dwarfed even the Meridian Alliance's now destroyed flagship, moved to the center of their formation. Across its hull, glowing blue lines activated in sequence, forming patterns that pulsed with energy. Incoming transmission, Vex announced. Admiral Chen's face appeared once more, now clearly on the bridge of her vessel. Behind her, human officers moved with practiced efficiency. Commander Val, she said, the Earth Defense Fleet is in position. We will engage the swarm and create a corridor for your civilian evacuations. Please transmit the locations of your shelter zones so we can prioritize defensive coverage. Tarek found his voice. Admiral Chen, we are grateful beyond words. But I must ask, how did your fleet arrive so quickly? And how did you assemble such a force on such short notice? Chen's expression remained neutral. We've been ready for this moment for 40 years, Commander. As for our arrival method, that's a technology developed during our isolation, one of many. She looked off-screen briefly, then back to Tarek. The swarm is reacting to our presence. We're about to engage. I suggest you prepare your medical facilities. War is about to return to Meridia Prime." As the transmission ended, Tarek watched in awe as the human fleet began to move with coordinated precision toward the swarm. For the first time in months, he felt something he had nearly forgotten. Hope. Unbound fury. The battle began with a silence that belied the violence to follow. From his position in the command center, Commander Tarek Val watched as the human vessels initiated their attack. He had expected immediate weapons fire, energy beams, missile salvos, the familiar choreography of space combat that had defined warfare for millennia. Instead, the lead human ships simply transmitted. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Communications Officer Vex reported, his tentacles twitching in confusion. Extremely high-powered signals directed at the swarm vessels. "What kind of signals?" Tarek demanded. "Unknown. The patterns are unlike anything in our database," Vex replied. "Not standard communication protocols, not even recognizable data structures." On the tactical display, the swarm's reaction was immediate and bewildering. Ships that had been advancing in perfect coordination suddenly broke formation. Some drifted aimlessly. Others began moving in erratic patterns. "The swarm network is destabilizing," Tactical Officer Malus observed, her luminescent tendrils brightening with surprise. "Their hive-mind communication appears to be disrupted." Tarek leaned forward. The swarm's greatest strength had always been their perfect neural synchronization. Millions of individual drones acting with the cohesion of a single organism. No one had ever successfully interfered with this connection before, and now they attack. Security Chief Dorn rumbled, his stone-like fingers tightening on the edge of his console. The human vessels surged forward, weapons finally blazing to life. But even these were unlike anything Tarek had seen before. Instead of the clean energy beams of conventional weaponry, the human ships fired what appeared to be shimmering projectiles that phased in and out of visible spectrum. When these projectiles struck swarm vessels, they didn't explode or pierce hulls. Instead, the enemy ships simply came apart, layer by layer, system by system, as if being methodically disassembled at the molecular level. "What are we witnessing?" First Officer Luran whispered. "Nanite warfare." Tarek realized, remembering fragments of classified reports. Forbidden by the Galactic Concord for over 3 centuries. The battle unfolded with ruthless efficiency, denied their hive-mind advantage, and faced with weapons they had no defense against, the swarm began to fall back. But the human fleet gave no quarter, maintaining their inexorable advance. "Incoming transmission from the human flagship," Vex announced. Admiral Chen's face appeared once more. "Commander Val, we're opening a corridor in Sector 4. Begin your civilian evacuation immediately. We'll maintain this position for 6 hours. Should be sufficient time to evacuate your priority population centers." Tarek nodded. "Thank you, Admiral. May I ask about your strategy against the swarm?" "Our initial attack targeted their quantum entanglement network," Chen explained matter-of-factly. "We're currently deploying molecular deconstruction weapons to eliminate their command structures. Phase 2 will begin shortly." "Phase 2?" Tarek inquired. Chen's expression remained neutral. "The swarm mothership remains hidden behind the battle group. Our sensors have located it. Once we've thinned their defensive screen, we'll proceed with direct engagement." The transmission ended before Tarek could ask further questions. "Adjust evacuation protocols," he ordered his crew. "Direct all civilian transports through the corridor provided by the human forces." As his officers complied, Tarek studied the battle with professional interest. The humans fought unlike any species he had encountered in his long military career. There was no hesitation, no attempt at communication with the enemy, no graduated response. They had committed fully to the battle from the first moment, employing weapons of terrifying efficiency with surgical precision. "Commander," Malus called out, "I'm detecting unusual readings from the human vessels. They appear to be changing." On the display, several of the larger human ships were indeed transforming. Sections of their hulls shifted and reconfigured, weapons platforms rotating and combining into new configurations. Adaptive architecture, Tarek murmured. Another technology banned by the Galactic Concord. The ability to reconfigure spacecraft during combat. The reconfigured human vessels accelerated suddenly, punching deeper into the swarm formation. They moved in patterns that seemed random at first glance, but revealed their deadly purpose as they systematically targeted and destroyed the largest concentrations of enemy ships. Hours passed as the battle continued. The human fleet maintained their promised corridor, allowing hundreds of Meridian vessels to evacuate civilians to safety. Meanwhile, they steadily pushed back the swarm, destroying thousands of enemy vessels with minimal losses to their own forces. "Commander," Vex called out, "Admiral Chen is requesting your presence aboard their flagship." Tarek turned in surprise. "My presence? Now?" "Yes, sir. They've sent coordinates for shuttle transfer. The Admiral says it concerns the next phase of their operation." Tarek considered briefly. "Liren, you have command. Continue evacuation operations. I'll take a shuttle to the human vessel." 20 minutes later, Tarek's shuttle approached the massive human flagship. Up close, the vessel was even more impressive and unsettling. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to judge distances or dimensions. Only the pulsing blue lines that ran across its surface provided any visual reference. The shuttle bay that received him was cavernous and eerily quiet. A group of human officers waited as he disembarked, 5 of them forming a precise line, all wearing the same midnight blue uniforms with minimal ornamentation. Commander Vol, the central figure, greeted him, a tall human with pale skin and auburn hair. "I'm Captain Reynolds, Admiral Chen's executive officer. Please follow me." As they moved through the ship's corridors, Tarek noticed the stark difference between human military architecture and that of the Meridian Alliance. Where Meridian vessels emphasized organic curves and communal spaces, reflecting their coalition of biologically diverse species, the human ship was all sharp angles and precise symmetry, functional to an extreme degree. Most striking was the crew. Every human they passed was armed, even those clearly engaged in non-combat roles. And there were far fewer personnel than Tarek would have expected for a vessel of this size. "Your ship seems understaffed," Tarek observed. "The Nemesis operates at 83% automation." Reynolds replied without breaking stride. "Minimum human presence reduces casualty risk and resource consumption." They arrived at what appeared to be the ship's command center, a circular chamber dominated by a 3-dimensional tactical display showing the ongoing battle. Admiral Chen stood at its center, surrounded by officers working at various stations. "Commander Vol," Chen greeted him, her tone cordial but businesslike. "Thank you for coming. I wanted you here for this next phase." She gestured to the display, where a section had been magnified to show a massive structure hiding behind the remnants of the Swarm fleet. The Swarm mothership, Tarek recognized immediately. "You found it." "We located it 3 hours ago," Chen confirmed. "We've been herding their defensive screen away from it, preparing for a direct strike." Tarek studied the image with newfound respect for human tactical acumen. The seemingly random patterns of the human attack had actually been a carefully orchestrated maneuver to isolate the Swarm's command vessel. "Our intelligence suggests this is one of 7 motherships directing the Swarm's galactic invasion," Chen continued. "Destroying it won't end the threat, but it will cripple their operations in this sector and buy time for further evacuations." "How do you plan to attack?" Tarek asked. "Even with your impressive technology, the mothership's defensive capabilities are formidable." For the first time, Chen's expression showed something like satisfaction. "We're going to use the Spear of Dawn." At her words, the tactical display shifted to show a single human vessel breaking away from the main fleet. Unlike the angular warships, this craft was sleek and cylindrical, nearly a kilometer in length, but relatively narrow. "Is that a kinetic weapon?" Tarek asked, hardly believing what he was seeing. Relativistic kinetic impactor, Reynolds corrected from behind him. The spear accelerates to 97% light speed before impact. Tarek's scales paled. Such weapons are expressly forbidden by every galactic treaty. The collateral damage will be contained, Chen interrupted firmly. We've calculated the blast radius precisely. Your planet is in no danger. That's not what I meant, Tarek said. Such a weapon. The development alone violates dozens of non-proliferation agreements. Chen's gaze hardened. Commander, with all due respect, those agreements failed to prevent the swarm from nearly wiping out your civilization. They failed to stop the Rigelian massacre 40 years ago. They failed to protect anyone except those who already had power. She gestured to the display. Humanity chose isolation because we saw the writing on the wall. The Galactic Concord was built on pretty ideals but enforced by self-interest. When true threats emerge, those ideals were the first casualty. Tarek couldn't argue with the result before him. For years, the Meridian Alliance had fought the swarm using Concord-approved methods and technologies. They had followed the rules of warfare established by galactic civilization and had been systematically destroyed for their compliance. The spear will launch in 2 minutes, an officer announced. Target locked. Trajectory clear. Chen turned back to Tarek. I wanted you to witness this personally, Commander. Not just as a military observer, but as a representative of the Meridian Alliance. When this is over, the galaxy will need to understand that everything has changed. On the tactical display, the sleek human vessel began to accelerate. Its engines flared brilliantly, pushing it to speeds that seemed impossible for a craft of its size. Approaching relativistic velocity, someone announced. Shields at maximum. The spear streaked toward the swarm mothership, covering the vast distance in seconds. The massive enemy vessel attempted evasive maneuvers, but its bulk made it too slow to avoid the human weapon. Impact. The display automatically dimmed as a blinding flash erupted where the mothership had been. The kinetic energy of the relativistic impact converted instantly to heat and light, creating a temporary artificial star in the void. When the glare subsided, nothing remained of the swarm mothership except an expanding cloud of superheated particles. Nearby swarm vessels, caught in the blast radius, had simply ceased to exist. Target destroyed. The tactical officer reported calmly. Blast containment successful. No collateral damage to friendly forces or planetary bodies. The command center remained silent for several moments. Tarek found himself speechless, trying to process the implications of what he had just witnessed. The remaining swarm vessels are breaking formation, another officer reported. Hive mind coordination has completely collapsed. They appear to be reverting to individual survival protocols. Chen nodded, satisfied. Begin Phase 3. Pursuit and elimination of all remaining hostile forces. She turned to Tarek. Your people can complete their evacuations safely now. The swarm in this sector has been neutralized. Admiral, Tarek said, finding his voice at last, I don't know how to thank you. You've saved billions of lives today. We honored our treaty, Chen replied simply, though I suspect many in the Galactic Concord won't see it that way. What happens now? Tarek asked. Will humanity return to isolation after this? Chen's expression became contemplative. No, Commander. Isolation was never our preference, merely our necessity. We needed time to develop, to prepare. The galaxy wasn't ready for what humanity had become after Rigel. She gestured to the tactical display, now showing the human fleet methodically eliminating the scattered swarm vessels. This is just the beginning. The swarm has 6 more motherships, and beyond them, other threats that your people haven't even encountered yet. The galaxy has been balanced on a knife's edge for decades. You've been watching all this time, Tarek realized. Preparing. We have, Chen acknowledged, and now we're ready to act. The question is whether the rest of galactic civilization is ready for us. Tarek considered the incredible technology he had witnessed, the ruthless efficiency of the human attack, the weapons that violated every principle of the Galactic Concord. Yet here he stood, his people saved by these same forbidden means. "The galaxy will never be the same," he said finally. "No," Chen agreed. "It won't, but it will survive. And sometimes, Commander, that's enough." As Tarek prepared to return to his shuttle, he took one last look at the human command center. These were not the humans of 40 years ago, cautious newcomers to the galactic stage. They had transformed themselves into something both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The galaxy had given up hope in the face of the swarm. Then humanity's war fleet had arrived, bringing with them power beyond imagination and a willingness to use it. Tarek didn't know if this new humanity was a savior or a conqueror. Perhaps they were both. But as he watched the final swarm vessels being systematically destroyed on the tactical display, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The age of the Galactic Concord was over. The age of humanity had begun.